This video is going to be brought to you by Honkai Star Rail, my personal favorite multi-platform space fantasy RPG from Hoyoverse, which has over 100 million downloads within a year of its release and has won Best Mobile Game at the TGA, Best Game for Google Play, and Best Game for the App Store in 2023. Alright, listen, this new update, it is crazy and I'm losing my mind over it. The current storyline takes us to Amphoreus, a world inspired by mythic Mediterranean civilizations. It used to be a golden age under the Titans until the Black Tide of Doom hit, corrupted everything, and basically turned the place into a mythological apocalypse. And now Amphoreus is collapsing and the Astral Express crew is teaming up with Cryos heirs in order to save what's left. But the real star of this update is SAIYAN. Let's be honest here, SAIYAN instantly became one of my favorite Honkai Star Rail characters ever. She's the emanator of remembrance and basically the Amphoreus version of Elysia. Grace, elegance, hope, all wrapped into one gentle but unshakenly brave heroine with flowing pink hair, white roses, wing motifs, and that skirt. She looks like she just walked out a mythological painting, and that smile, bro, is actually healing me. She's been with the Trailblazer from day one of this arc, shifting from her mem form all the way to her true form, and now she's here as a fully playable ice type remembrance support. SAIYAN is a universal upgrade for the Cryos Air teams. She gives the whole squad extra true DMG, buffs for every air, and she summons adorable mem sprites using recollection to boost team damage even more. And version 3.7 is stacked. New events, new areas, new enemies, 6 character reruns, plus returning players get double Stellar Jades up to 1600. You also get golden companion spirit tokens for a free 5-star and 10 free pulls just for logging in. New world, new lore, new best girl, new heroine. SAIYAN is insane. Amphoreus arc, it is peaking, and now's the perfect time to jump in. Claim the rewards, explore Amphoreus, and use the limited time redemption code for 50 Stellar Jades. Use my QR code on the screen and the link in the description box and the pinned comment to download Honkai Star Rail today. If you thought Boruto 2 Blue Vortex was wild before, Chapter 28 just said, "Hold my Thunderburger." Boruto finally gets pushed into using the Karma Seal. Mamushi is invading Konoha like it's Black Friday shopping deals. Inojin drops one of the new jutsu with complete main character energy, and Boruto's sword has transformed into something so illegal it should and probably is illegal. And if that isn't enough, the chapter confirms that Mamushi has already killed off Ada and Himawari in another timeline. Yeah, this chapter is crazy, so join your OBC, your original Boruto chief, as we unpack Boruto 2 Blue Vortex Chapter 28. We open up the chapter with Inojin hard at work inside of Orochimaru's hideout, perfecting the new jutsu that Kashin Koji taught him. The very jutsu Inojin was told would be crucial if they're going to defeat Mamushi in this upcoming battle. As he puts the final touches on it, with Boruto and Kashin Koji watching him closely, Kashin Koji gives Inojin the seal of approval, saying he's basically got the jutsu hammered down, and the quick speed at which he's learned it even earns praise from Boruto, who is shocked that Inojin mastered this technique in only one day. But this is a reminder of the effects of omnipotence about to be shown to us. So Inojin's memory is still altered by omnipotence. So when Boruto gives him the compliment, in Inojin's mind, he just hears a traitor telling him, "Hey, nice job." And Inojin makes that much clear. He's only here for the sake of his village, and he's only here to protect Himawari. He's not here to help a traitor like Boruto, and he still hasn't forgiven him for killing Naruto and Hinata, which in this moment your heart has to break a little bit for Boruto here, even though he himself is taking the insult on the chin, knowing that Inojin doesn't know any better, and that in order to protect the village, Boruto has to carry that huge cross on his back. He merely closes his good eye and begins to lock in on his flying Raijin marker, but not before he gives Inojin his own warning. He says, "You break Himawari's heart by making her cry even one time, and I'm gonna shave that head of yours." It's a funny moment. Boruto, being the naturally overprotective big brother, telling the guy who is into his sister to watch himself. It should be a lighthearted moment between friends, but to Inojin, this doesn't land in the way that it would have if he remembered Boruto as being Naruto's child. In his mind, he is confused why Boruto would even care about Himawari, because the memory of Boruto that he has, which is really his memory of Kawaki, is a guy who is obsessed with only Naruto. As Boruto teleports away, a confused Inojin asks Kashin Koji, how can Boruto say something like that to me when he's the one who destroyed the Uzumaki family by killing Himawari's parents? And Kashin Koji can't, or rather won't, tell Inojin the truth. Not right now. Could it be timeline implications? Maybe, but it could also be Koji respecting Boruto's decision to handle omnipotence on his own and knowing how futile it would be to even tell someone their memories altered, because omnipotence will eventually push back against it unless the person has something that they are hanging on to so that they can keep fighting the influence of omnipotence rewriting their memory. For Sasuke, it was his trust in Sarada. For Amato, it was his trust in his ninja tech inside of Kawaki. For Shikamaru, it was his suspicion of Amato when he said their memories are altered, and Shikamaru's decision to trust Boruto's word. Right now, Inojin doesn't yet have that anchor to hold on to, and Kashin Koji can't disclose that info because of how important Inojin is for the battle ahead. He can't give Inojin a reason not to trust him, and by telling him, hey, your memory's been altered, Inojin would not trust him. We then shift over to Konoha, where Mitsuki, he's been summoned by Kobu to take Konohamaru's place in the interrogation room, and as Mitsuki comes into the room to be investigated, Sai is carrying out his own investigation into Konohamaru without Kobu being made aware, showcasing those skills and those instincts that he honed while he was a member of the Anbu Black Ops since his childhood. He asks the sensory unit to tell him who Konohamaru is speaking to, and he narrows it down to the last few minutes, which confirms that Sai did notice a subtle change in Konohamaru's behavior when he was contacted by Shikamaru, and if you're a hardcore Naruto fan, this should excite you. This goes back to what Tsunade taught Sakura during their time skip training. A skilled shinobi is able to perceive even the smallest details about someone, from finger movement to even their breathing patterns, before that shinobi acts, and that as a shinobi goes up higher in rank, or as they get more skilled, they get better at hiding those things. But to the trained eye, those telltale signs, they're still there if you pay attention. Konohamaru was able to fool Kobu because Kobu isn't a shinobi, but in that moment last chapter where Konohamaru tensed up, Sai clocked what happened. And so when the sensory unit tells Sai Konohamaru has not spoken to anyone since last night, Sai thanks them, but now his suspicion, it is firmly trained because he knows there's a rat inside of Konoha, which means Sai's role in this story is far from over. Interestingly enough, that role picks up further here with Mitsuki under investigation, because while Konohamaru is a elite shinobi in universe, Mitsuki is a whole nother class of shinobi compared to Konohamaru, and he's quite literally the clone of Orochimaru, one of the strongest and wisest and most deceptive ninja in history, something that Kobu himself takes note of when he refers to Mitsuki as the son of Orochimaru. Whatever signs that Sai was able to pick up on Konohamaru, they won't be as easy to spot on Mitsuki, even when Mitsuki gets contacted by Shikamaru later on in this chapter. Sai is now watching closely as Kobu goes right into his interrogation, saying when Boruto escaped, you were the one who was closest to him, which naturally means Mitsuki is a suspect. Meanwhile, Boruto's back inside the village, and he's been given his sword by Sumire, and to say that Boruto's sword got more than a physical makeover, that is an understatement. This sword has the potential to be absolutely broken, and it's impressive Sumire made the modifications in only a day, but given Boruto did give her the scroll, it might not seem as impressive. However, picking it up that quickly is impressive given this is information Sumire has yet to uncover in her research. It's not much, but it is a sign of the story showcasing Sumire is a pretty smart girl. Basically, the sword has been altered to the point only the sword guard is the only part that remained the same. Every other aspect of the sword, it has been changed, and it's not just physically different either. The sword style Sasuke taught Boruto to run his chakra through his blade to basically feather it with chakra, which that is why it's called Hagoromo style, because Hagoromo means feather. It's not a six paths jutsu like I'm seeing a lot of fans say. So Sumire changed the blade where all Boruto has to do is grip the hilt of the sword, and the jutsu, it automatically activates, and it continuously runs Boruto's chakra through it. The best way to describe it, if you still don't understand, is to think of it like a car. Before, Boruto's sword was like driving a manual transmission, where you have to push in the clutch and move the car into gear. Well, now the sword operates like an automatic transmission, where you just press the start engine button and you put the car in a drive and it's good to go. The car does all the gear shifting for you. You just have to drive. And for Boruto, all he has to do is worry about fighting with the blade. He doesn't have to consciously think about running his chakra through the sword anymore, which reduces the chance of the sword getting damaged again. However, there are other side effects to it. The blade, when Boruto uses it, it still takes his chakra, just as if he was the one performing the jutsu manually. But the downside is that if anyone other than Boruto and Sasuke, the original sword owners, or Sumire, the one who works on the sword, if they ever pick up the blade, it will automatically drain their chakra, which makes it dangerous to anyone except for those three. However, there's a hidden benefit to it. If during his next battle with Jura, and Jura picks up Boruto's sword again, he's gonna get a lot of his chakra drained. That's a callback to the Boruto versus Ao fight, where the ninja tech blade that Boruto used, it drained a lot of Ao's chakra, which made it easier for Boruto to defeat him. So basically, depending on who uses the sword, it has multiple purposes to it. One final thing, the sword has a unique material that is fused into it, but Sumire never tells us what it is because the story chooses to shift to another scene. Shikamaru is inside the Hokage office. He's being confronted by his son Shikadai, and for the first time, we get to see Shikamaru in the same position that Naruto found himself in Boruto Part 1. He has a son who understands the Hokage position is important, but he's also challenging him. But in this instance, Shikadai is doing it differently than Boruto, but there are similarities here, which makes this very poetic. When Shikamaru tells his son that Konoha will soon be a battlefield, and he's gonna trust the information he got from Boruto, Shikadai snaps on him for it. That's where it's very poetic. He's making the same mistake that Boruto did in Part 1. Whereas Boruto knew that the Hokage position was important, he couldn't at first fully bring himself to accept it. There are times where his father, as Hokage, had to make choices that demanded certain decisions to be made of a Hokage that Boruto couldn't agree with. Shikadai here does the same thing, but on a more serious level, since in his eyes, his father is working with the guy who killed Naruto and Hinata, and he's directly questioning if Shikamaru is even worthy of being the Hokage at all. It's a child asking a black and white question, not understanding that this moment, like a lot of moments in the lives of adults, is filled with various shades of gray to it. There are times where decisions that get made won't be fully understood by those who care for us, but in time, and if that person is willing to be patient, things do eventually become clear. And Shikamaru understands the same thing his predecessors who had children as Hokage understood. Naruto with Boruto, Minato with first a baby Naruto, who he made into a Jinchuriki, and then a pissed off teenage Naruto that he met during the Pain arc, or even Hiruzen with Asuma. The young, they don't get it now, but in time they will understand, which is why Shikamaru takes a beat and he recomposes himself. He tells Shikadai that it's because he took this Hokage position that he would stand firm in his conviction, just as Naruto would have stood firm. And he's basically telling Shikadai in so many words, listen boy, I understand the weight on my shoulders when I put this Hokage cloak on, and that I'm walking in the footprints of perhaps the greatest Hokage ever. Every decision I do will be measured up to that man. Don't you ever question my seriousness about this position. Everything I do is for the sake of this village, even if villagers like you don't see it. Even if shinobi like you don't see it. In time, you'll eventually understand everything I did for the safety of this village and the future of this village. He tells Shikadai that Boruto is a necessary ally to deal with the awakened Shinju. But if Shikadai can't understand that, if he can't place his hate for Boruto aside and carry out his duty as a Konoha shinobi, he does not need to participate in the battle ahead. And he isn't going to tell anyone the information that was shared to him. Shikamaru Shikamaru is basically telling his son, keep your mouth shut, which leads to Shikadai asking his father to give him the order to enter the battlefield, because if Himawari and Sarada are going to be there to help Boruto, then he has to be. And that's where he gives us a bombshell. Number one, he obviously thinks that Sarada is an idiot for trying to help Boruto, but we also learn Himawari chose to become a ninja specifically because she wanted to help Boruto, and that because of that, Chocho and Inojin won't leave Himawari alone in that situation, which is why he'll enter the battlefield, but only if his Hokage gives him the orders to do so. Now, this scene resonates with you as a reader because it does show the anger for Shikadai, but also the emotional maturity to accept his place in the hierarchy here. There comes a moment in all of our lives where we have to work with someone that we don't like, talk to people we disagree with, and even help those that we don't care for. It's part of maturing as a person. And in this case, it's part of understanding that you're part of something bigger than yourself. For Shikadai, this isn't about him as Shikadai Nar. When he puts on that ninja headband, that headband canonically has a registration number assigned to it. And he is basically a tool for Konoha. He does not get to act based on his personal feelings when he wears that headband, not when it's a matter of village safety. And that's what makes the moment from father and son here hit so different. The duality of the relationship is on display. Shikamaru is both his father, but he's also Shikadai's Hokage. Very beautiful moment here. Very beautiful character interaction. We then shift over to Kashin Koji and Inojin's conversation. And Kashin Koji is once again used to explain how 10 Directions works and why he can't tell everyone the future and why he can't see every change that happens in the future once a person's told what will happen. He purposely has to stay vague with the information as he hands it out pertaining to the various possible timelines he sees when he gets an update, which his last update came when Kawaki arrived on the battlefield to fight Jura, which was not supposed to happen, but Boruto changed the timeline when he told Kawaki remove his limiters. Kashin Koji tells Inojin, for instance, say if I told you you needed to die or get close to dying for Himawari to awaken the Nine Tails power, would you have still gone into battle without hesitation, or would you have hesitated when the time came? Most people hesitate, and if you hesitate, then Himawari's power never awakens. To use an example to further explain this, if you go back to Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange in Avengers Infinity War saw 14 million timelines from that one moment and only one outcome where the Avengers win. So in Endgame, when Tony Stark asked him, is this the timeline where we win? Doctor Strange tells Tony, I can't tell you that or else it won't happen. And that moment finally paid off when Strange looks at Tony, he nods, Tony snaps the Infinity Gauntlet and he saves everyone. It's the same logic here. Those with knowledge of the future had to be careful, otherwise the future they saw does not come to pass. Basically, they saw a possible outcome and they basically fumbled it. Kashin Koji gives further information by saying that every time he tells someone about a possible path, from that very moment, it changes ever so slightly, which means he can't see what a person will do with the knowledge once they are given it, because that was not part of his original vision. He just has to have faith that they act accordingly. And a panel pops up of Sarada where he says the more ideal the future, the more important it is that people don't know, which goes back to the previous argument that Boruto had with him in the last chapter regarding Yodo's death. Due to the nature of how Sarada awakened her Mangekyo's Sharingan, under all that extreme trauma in Boruto chapter 79 and chapter 80, it would be lightning in a bottle to recreate that exact same level of trauma that could make her consciously awaken Mangekyo without taking a life in the process. But for someone with potential to awaken Mangekyo like Sarada, the fastest path was to have Yodo dying after she formed that connection with Sarada. Had Sarada known that this needed to happen, she never would have awakened Mangekyo, and so Sarada likely dies. It was cruel, but it was a necessary evil. Kashin Koji tells Inojin that telling people something with good intentions can still lead to unintended consequences. It comes with great responsibility because each decision at certain points can create brand new branches in a timeline with more unseen possibilities, and it makes his 10 Directions jutsu pointless because he can't predict what will happen until he himself gets another update, like we literally saw when Kawaki arrived to fight Jura, and Koji, by extension, saw this new updated timeline we're currently in that he's trying to change, and boy, is this one dark. In this timeline they're trying to change, where Mamushi has come to Konoha, Ada has been confirmed to be killed and absorbed into a tree, a sign that Mamushi had his way with her since she was his target. During the span of the battles that took place, Himawari ended up dying, and we see Inojin holding the corpse of a bloody Himawari who hasn't been taken by Jura, and it was most likely Mamushi, because if it was Jura, she'd be in the same position as Ada, but instead she's just been beaten to death physically, which means that Mamushi party turned violent pretty quickly. However, before Kashin Koji can further elaborate, Kashin Koji is interrupted by Shikamaru, who has now connected everyone participating in the Mamushi battle via an unofficial transmission. Shikamaru states that everyone's on this call. They were chosen because they were deemed to be non-hostile towards Boruto, despite Boruto having an open kill on sight order on him and many people in the village wanting him dead. Boruto during the span of this mission will be moving around a lot, and that while there might be obstacles for Boruto, every member of this team gathered is meant to support Boruto in this fight with Mamushi. The people on this call, they're Sarada, Ada, Damon, Chocho, Himawari, Shikadai, Konohamaru, Mitsuki, Delta, Kawaki, Sumire, Boruto, and obviously Kashin Koji and Inojin. Shikamaru reveals that the jutsu they're using is a brand new jutsu Inojin made by building on the mind transmission jutsu of the Yamanaka clan. He goes over Mamushi's power to split himself into clones of himself that have his full attack power, and that he can erase his chakra signature like Otsutsuki, but Inojin's jutsu has a second feature to it. The jutsu links people in the communication like receivers, allowing them to detect vibrations. Those vibrations allow for him to find Mamushi even when he's hiding his chakra, because every object has its own frequency that is unique to it, which makes a lot of sense. This just builds on concepts from Naruto. So when a shinobi uses chakra suppression jutsu, all they're doing is masking their chakra, but their chakra itself does not go away. The same thing applies with Otsutsuki, but where they have a leg up on most shinobi who have to hide their chakra the way that Karin did at the 5 Kage summit when Sasuke fought the Raikage, Otsutsuki can still perform jutsu while erasing chakra signatures simultaneously, as we saw with Kaguya in Naruto's manga and Jigen in Boruto Part 1 when he fought Naruto and Sasuke alone. Inojin's jutsu basically lets him pick up on those vibrations of the body even when the chakra signature is erased, and since it's linking all the people in that group chat together, when a foreign entity steps in or around it, he's able to locate it, which allows him and Shikamaru to basically quarterback the play so they can take down Mamushi. This effectively eliminates the need for Ada to use her Semigon in theory, since when she uses it to look for Mamushi in real time, he can interact with her, and the whole purpose is to keep Mamushi away from her. The downside to this jutsu is that as it is right now, Inojin can only connect a limited number of people, but as Shikamaru lays out the information, we see another small ripple in the river of time, just as Kashin Koji warned. So Shikadai hears this jutsu and is the only one who asks the question, when did Inojin learn or even create a jutsu like that? Which is just a small ripple, but it is one to keep your eyes on moving forward. And Shikadai is the right person to know the limits of Inojin, not just because they're teammates either. As the current generation of the Inoshikasho trio, Shikadai knows the jutsu and limitations of his teammates down to a T, because they've quite literally been training together ever since they were kids. Naruto chapter 700 makes it known that they were being trained to work together as a team even before they were officially Ganin. The reason that this is the case is that these three families have hidden jutsu techniques known only to clan members, which is different from Kekkei Genkai, since hidden jutsu are jutsu taught specifically to clan members, and Kekkei Genkai, you're just born with it. The three clans, they train together so they can coordinate their attacks. For someone like Shikadai, he'd know if Inojin had a jutsu like this, which is why he's got that running mean face going on in the chapter. Another thing of note here is that Kawaki appears to have been in the process of getting another update via Amato, since he is in his lab laying on the table, which Amato was told by Kawaki to raise his battle power even further last chapter, which means Boruto isn't the only one entering this battle with an upgrade, so too is Kawaki. Elsewhere, on the quiet streets of Konoha, Mamushi casually walks up to a random Konoha citizen, asking where Ada's located. He's in full stalker mode as he does so. And Inojin knows right away that Mamushi is inside the village, and Shikamaru tells Inojin he already knows because he's looking at the situation, which he's doing so via the toad that Kashinkoji left in the village on his desk, which is projecting images from Inojin in that cave as he uses the jutsu, which means Kashinkoji has another toad watching Inojin in that moment, which in a very crafty way, Shikamaru has the toad hidden in plain sight behind his laptop, so Shikadai can't see it, and nobody connects him to Kashinkoji, who has to remain a secret, as we're told when Boruto's interrogated in chapter 14 by Ibiki. Kashinkoji then instructs Boruto on which flying Raijin marker to teleport to, and Boruto is already on it seconds later, and as Boruto makes his way towards the scene, Shikamaru laments the fact that Mamushi has arrived even sooner than expected by several days, and Kashinkoji once again discloses to readers, this is simply how it is. Fate has already begun to change in a way different from what he foresaw, and now our heroes, they just have to try to navigate the situation as best they can. And Kawaki is not going to be left out. He's already preparing to head out as well. Meanwhile, Ada, upon hearing this, she gets the ick at the thought of Mamushi coming, and she says she's going to throw up, and her brother Damon vows to kill Mamushi before he ever puts his hands on her. When Sarada tries to leave, Shikamaru tells her to stand down for now, saying that Mamushi will have clones, and that instead of her going directly to help Boruto, she is told hold her position. He's sending Team 10, which likely includes Himawari, towards a section of the village, and honestly, his reason is very smart when you read between the lines. It's just one more person guarding Ada, and Mamushi's too big of a threat to confront head on alone for right now, which is what Sarada would be doing because Mitsuki is still being interrogated, and at least Himawari and Team 10 have a history of working together based on what we can piece together via the story. Given Inojin is remote and too important to lose, Himawari would basically be taking his place on this mission. In a three-man team, it is basic standard operating procedure. Any backup in the form of Kawaki and Boruto is basically one of them serving as the Jonin for this team. There's also the political subplot being advanced here. Shikamaru tells Mitsuki to not break his way out the interrogation room, saying the best thing to do is to wait until the village is a battlefield so as to not draw Kobu's suspicion, and for now, Team 7, they're on standby. Boruto has orders to jump around from location to location where his markers are and help engage in combat as needed, and that Kawaki will do the same. Go where backup is needed or a set of Mamushi clones is causing too much trouble, and that ultimately Mamushi's going to try to find his way to Ada. So again, Team 7 being on standby makes sense. Elsewhere, Mamushi asks another Konoha citizen, where is Ada? And the Mamushi clones show what Kashinkoji spoke about last chapter. They're careful not to damage Konoha too much because it'll piss off Jura, which as of now, we don't know if Jura's still in the village. Since the last time we saw him, the guy was in the tea shop, but this is a whole day later. Before Mamushi's clone can take another step, Boruto has landed on the ground and he catches the clone off guard by cutting its head off from behind with his sword, making sure to slice the head in a way where he destroys Mamushi's eyes, and in the process, since, as we're told in the last chapter, both eyes have to be destroyed. As the Konoha citizens flee with the intention of going to the police station, which will ultimately alert Sai, they want to have Konoha shinobi come to Boruto's location to kill him. Boruto only gets a brief moment to relish in his victory. 4 more Mamushi clones have appeared during the time it took Boruto to tell the same citizens to run away, and Boruto quickly cuts down another Mamushi clone, once again making sure to destroy the eyes in the process. But 2 more, they're right on top of Boruto, ready for combat, and they're not alone. Another Mamushi clone repays Boruto with an off-guard attack of his own, punching Boruto from behind, sending him flying across the area into another building, which forces Boruto to grab his sword, roll out the way, because Mamushi doesn't hesitate to transform his arm into that snake-like appearance, which is a nod to Mamushi being named after the most venomous snake in Japan, the Mamushi pit viper, and he tries to consume Boruto like he did in chapter 4. But thankfully, Boruto got out the way. However, Boruto merely dodges one attack, only to be bombarded by a double fireball jutsu from the other two clones, which is a nice lore pull because this means Bug knew fire release, which is cool since we don't know anything about the character outside the fact he's a member of Kara. But given these Shinju get abilities of their original, this means Bug had fire release. The Mamushi clones, they freak out because using such a wide-scale fire release could damage the village, and they're worried about pissing off Jura. But unfortunately for them, as the smoke begins to clear, Boruto has now finally used the Karma Seal for the first time in Boruto Part 2 by actively using Karma in combat. And Mamushi knows right away this fight's about to hit another gear now that Boruto's busted out Karma. And Boruto outright shows his annoyance by revealing how much he hates Karma, particularly the feeling that occurs when he absorbs jutsu, which means the battle in the next chapter is obviously going to get intense. While that's it for this chapter, your Boruto journey doesn't have to be over. Click here to check out the Boruto full story playlist where we go over the entire Boruto story from Part 1 all the way up to this current chapter, or click here to watch videos from other two anime channels where I talk about non-Naruto content.